Hello, I'm fighting a migraine, so this is going to be a quick first check-in for Pyramids by Terry Pratchett. I've read part 1. This book is actually split up into sections, which is so helpful for discussions. Thank you, finally. But anyway, we're following a boy named Tepik who is, he's training at the Assassin's Guild. The Assassin's Guild, which... the gates were never shut. This was said to be because death was open for business all the time, but it was really because the hinges had rusted centuries before and no one had got around to doing anything about it. So Tepik is training at the Assassin's Guild and he quite likes it. He enjoys the school, except for the little bitty hiccup that he doesn't like the idea of killing. So in part 1, Tepik takes his exam, his practical, to determine if he's going to pass the test to become an assassin, and it doesn't go well at first because, you know, he doesn't want to kill, but through a series of very Pratchett events he does end up passing the test. But then his father passes in a different way, so Tepik has to go home and, you know, become the heir to the throne because dad's king. So at the end of part 1, Tepik is going back home to Jelly, which I believe is supposed to be pronounced without the D, so Jelly Belly, which is Pratchett's version of ancient Egypt, to be the new king, which is interesting because there was a discussion before in part 1 when they were in their assassin school, where they were talking about, well, Tepik was talking about how his dad's main role, because he's viewed as a deity of sorts, not of sorts, he's viewed as a deity, his dad's main role is to make the sunrise every morning, but that confused Tepik a little bit. Like, how does he do that? Because he sleeps past the sunrise every morning, so how does he do it in his sleep? That's never been his problem to figure out, but now it is, because it's now Tepik's job to make the sunrise every morning. So we're gonna see how that goes for him in part 2. So far I'm not hooked on this, but it has been a fun start, and I like Tepik. I like the Assassin's Guild, which we're now done with, I think. And apparently pyramids are going to be involved in this book, and since, you know, dear old dad is dead now, I can guess how. But don't worry, dad's not out of the story, because he's now a ghost, and we've had an interaction with death already, and it was beautiful because dad, the king, he asked him, he said, "I have many questions," and death was like, "Everybody does," and then just walked away while he rode his horse away. So rude. So yeah, it's been a charming start. Not the most charming Discworld start, but you know, I'm enjoying myself. Welcome to the vlog. Hello, so I finished Pyramids, and the beginning was the best part for me. So part 1 was this assassin school, like I said, Tepik, training to be an assassin, dear old dad dies, and then he has to go off and be the newest pharaoh. There were some interesting things in regards to, you know, in the beginning we had that conversation about, I mean, how does he, you know, the pharaoh is deitized, he's seen as a deity, but like, how does he have this power? How does this whole thing work? Well, Tepik has to figure that out when he goes home and becomes the next pharaoh. And the answer is, he's got no power. He has no control here. So that whole dynamic and discovering that is kind of interesting. And then also there are some funny scenes in regards to, like, dad is a ghost now. I don't remember dad's name. He's a ghost now. And there was a scene with a priest that was saying, well, you know, the dead, they communicate through us priests. We're able to see what they want posthumously. And so he's like, we got to build him a pyramid to house his mummified self, and Ghost Dad, past Pharaoh, is just chilling right there. We, the readers, see him, and he's like, I don't want that at all. And the priest is like, he's very happy with this plan. And Ghosty's like, that's gonna be cold, that's gonna be dark, that's not gonna make me happy. And he's just like, this is good. We're happy. So there are still some funny things, but I think in these early Discworld books, the plot is really never the strongest suit, and I just feel that way so much more in Pyramids than I normally do. I think part 1 was really solid. It hadn't hooked me yet, but I was into it. And then as the book progressed, part 2 lost me a little bit, and then part 3 lost me completely. I didn't love this one. It didn't do much for me, actually. Sadly. I have been to Egypt though, so I mean, that was cool. Memories. Anyway, I also started Blood Rites. I've actually been listening to this one on audiobook. Anyway, it has a pretty standard Dresden start. There's a mystery. There's something that Harry needs to get involved in. This one takes place on an adult film set, which in a series that already is like hyper fixated on sexy hot women, you know, breasts, skin, legs, they're all mentioned all the time. It's just like, of course we're gonna have a plot on a porn set. Although I will say it's not as bad as I would have expected. When we first got this plot introduction, it's no worse than other books. So there's a compliment for you, I guess. But we're doing the vampire thing again, more interactions with the White Court. There's one vampire in particular that was in previous books that seems like going to play a big role in this one, as well as his human companion, someone that he feeds off of, who is willing, but there's still some mind control and manipulation happening here. So she's a willing participant, but it's also not entirely consensual, and Harry is pretty not okay with this dynamic. So there's some interesting things going on in that regard. I'm not fully invested in this one either. So far, the setup is kind of just like your standard Dresden. We're doing it again. So I'm not hooked on this one at all. But I'm also pretty early on, so we'll see how it goes. The interlude that you saw a minute ago, that was me trying to make homemade donuts for the first time. They're not cute, but they were tasty. I'll leave the recipe in the description. It's so much cuter in her pictures. I don't know if it's because I was lazy and didn't actually cut the donut holes out. I don't think that's the problem. I don't know what I did wrong. Mine weren't cute, but everybody loved them, so that's something. Anyway, I'll check in with you when I finish Blood Rites, which should be in like a day. These books go very, very fast. I'm sure this lighting is bad, and I'm sorry about that, but it's late and I'm in the basement. So I did finish Blood Rites, and it picked up so much better than how I was feeling about it in the beginning. I was not feeling it in the beginning. So the opening scene was good, and the opening scenes are always good in these books. We go from fighting demon monkeys flinging hell poo at Harry, and then the thing is that these books initially were using a formula, and they were doing, you know, your detective story, your noir story with some good character work. And then it's been expanding and it's been broadening, and we've been doing more like epic scale kind of plot lines and kind of explorations. And in this one, I feel like we dialed it back down to a very narrow scope, a very through line, standard early Dresden kind of book. It's not that the plotting was bad. I don't think that it was. It's just that it felt more back to the formula, back to the older books, and less of the wider scale what's going on. However, some things happened and got introduced that were very interesting to me. Harry's family and his past and the things that that kind of isolation that he's feeling is getting unpacked, and he's getting more information about the family that he feels like he missed out on, that he did miss out on. He's getting tiny little snippets about his family in each book. And in this one in particular, we got a pretty big piece of information that's going to affect Harry and the rest of the series a lot. And it is really interesting because this way that it affects Harry is really complicated, because there is a character that this involves that I have such mixed feelings about. It's a character that up to this point, it's just, there's a lot happening. There's a lot of things that make me go, okay, you have had good intentions and you have tried, but there's also this really complicated element to you. And I don't know how I feel about it. And I just talked it out with some friends over Voxer because I was like, well, you got to consider this. And then, but also on the other side, consider this. And it's there's a lot to unpack there. Murphy is also really active in this book. She works with Harry quite a bit. In some books, she has a strong presence. Some books, she has a very non-existent presence, which is fine. In this book, she has a stronger presence, and I really, really welcomed that. I love this character, and I think that she is... I think she plays such a great role in the series, and we got to see some of her family dynamics and some of the messiness involved in that, as well as I really enjoyed, there was some dialogue about how she really has to work to be respected in the line of work that she's in a very, very male-dominated field. She has to go the extra mile. She has to train harder. She has to work harder. She doesn't have to, but she chooses to dress in a non-feminine way, cut her hair shorter than she likes. Like she tries to present herself in a way that would demand respect in a very male-dominated field. And Harry really reflected a lot on how hard she fights for the position that she's gained in this job. And I loved that conversation. There's still stupid stuff in this series. Like, for instance, there was a scene with some lasers, I think it was, or tripwires. I'm pretty sure it was lasers. And she was the smallest person, so she tried to go through the lasers, but there was like a fraction of an inch that wasn't gonna fit, and it was her bum. So the guy told her to take her pants off, and then he tried to assist her, and she had to take her pants off to go through these tripwires, and then the scene ensued, and her pink underwear, and it was just so unnecessary. Like, the rationale to get her to take her pants off was bad. It was stupid. And there's always something in these books that I'm just like, so immature. Like, it's just so dumb. But there's also so many good character moments where people are having heart-to-hearts and having really difficult conversations and having to confront their biases or having to confront the traumas that they have in life and just try to work with each other and figure it out. It's a series that I look forward to every time I read it, but there's always something that aggravates me in every book. Anyway, this was lower on the list of the Dresden books that I've read. It's probably bottom 3. It was still enjoyable. These books are always enjoyable, but the character work, the character exploration, and the relationships among the characters are still easily the best part about the series for me. And I just really hope that I really hope I love the next one. Anyway, quite a few people have asked me to start doing spoiler discussions on the Dresden books because there's a lot going on in these books, and I understand. And I'm happy to do that. I don't really care to do it for this book because I just don't have strong feelings about this book. So I'd rather wait until I have one that I can kind of gush about and unpack a little bit more. I also don't feel a strong urge to do a dedicated review for Pyramids because it was one of my least favorite Pratchett books so far. And Weird Sisters I still plan to do a review for eventually, but I really want to watch the 2 Shakespeare plays that it was playing off of before I review it, and I'll get around to it eventually. It might be a bit, but someday. So I have a review that I'm supposed to put up this Saturday, and there's always books to discuss more, so I'm fine. But I got this in the mail. Defiant is the conclusion to the Skyward Quartet, and Skyward, oh my goodness, I loved Skyward. I really, really enjoyed Starsight. I didn't like Cytonic. And so I've been excited but nervous about Defiant. So I started it last night, and I'm 33 pages into it, and I'm already loving what Brandon is doing with Spensa. Now that we're at this point in the story, I'm loving the internal. If you don't know this about me, Spensa is teenage Murphy. Like, if you want to know what I was like when I was 15, 16, read Skyward. There I am. I have never related to a character. I've never seen myself in a character like when I was reading Spensa. And there's so much going on with Spensa right now, with everything that she's been through and with the positioning that she's in here at the beginning of this book. There's so much internally going on with her, and I'm just loving how Brandon is exploring that in these first 30 pages. So anyway, it's only 400 pages, and these books read really quick, so I might do a dedicated review for this on Saturday. I was actually planning on reading Defiant in December, not when it was published in November, but I got too excited when it came in the mail and I was like, well, I could just start right now. Anyway, back to the point of the vlog. This week I read Pyramids and Blood Rites. Neither one were a smashing hit for me. Both were fine. I enjoyed them, but you know, not the top of either series for me. But I would love to discuss them with you further in the comments if you would like. I post videos every Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday on this channel, Mondays and Fridays on the manga channel, which is linked in the description. I'll see you again soon. Bye.